Santa Clarita Valley. This is Perry Smith on your City of Santa Clarita Spotlight Show here with Sheriff Station Captain Paul Becker. And we've been talking about public safety for the last 20 minutes or so. And one thing that I thought was really great that the station is doing is the JTeam and how that's kind of addressing the juvenile problem and some of the issues. It's not getting brushed in the rug. It's getting addressed out in the open. And you guys are working with the community. Talk to me a little bit about what the JTeam is doing in the Santa Clarita Valley.
Well, early in 2010, we realized that we have a drug problem with the youth in our community, and we wanted to put something in place that was not just an enforcement tactic to deal with the problem. What I always say, and as I address people, is the sheriff's department and police agencies have been serving search warrants and knocking down doors and taking drug dealers to jail for 50, 60 years, and it is not working. So we had to come up with a concept that was more encompassing. We took a look at the juvenile intervention team concept, and in essence what it is enforcement, intervention, and education. And we felt that we needed all three of those components to come together so that we can truly impact the problems with narcotics with our youth. We brought that concept to the city of Santa Clarita. They were very open. They funded that, which was expensive, but they saw the importance of it. The city funded that team, and we've been doing very, very well. So the enforcement component, my deputies that are on that team will focus on anyone who is providing narcotics to school-age kids. We have a separate team that handles adults and everything else. But if there are narcotics getting into our schools or to our youth, that team specifically goes after those individuals. That's the enforcement component. The intervention side, the city hired an intervention officer for me, put him on contract. He works very close with our enforcement deputies, and his job, Bob Walksmooth, his job is if a kid gets picked up with marijuana at 12 or 13 years old, he grabs a hold of that kid, gets a hold of the parents, sits down, figures out what's going on, how to fix this problem.
And I've talked to Bob several times. He has a lot of experience dealing specifically with narcotics, right, and those types of issues.
He actually used to work narcotics in the Santa Clarita Valley in the 70s when he was a deputy, yes.
And, you talk about the costs associated with it, but I'm sure it's saving a lot in the long run as far as preventing these, if you can stop the behavior early, right?
If I could save one life, it's worth it. The most important component, I feel, of that is the education component, because really without the education, and we can't really turn the head on this thing. What we did in November of 2011, we sent 2 deputies from Santa Clarita Station, two city employees, and a Heart District employee back to Florida to take a look at a program called Defy It, Drug-Free Youth in Town. It was very impressive. It's a campus-based program, and we brought that back to the Santa Clarita Valley, and that was kicked off in August of 2012, and it is in all of our high schools and junior high schools right now.
And there's a deputy on almost every campus all the time, and you can drive by a school during school hours and see them. But it goes beyond that. It's really a partnership between the Heart District and the Sheriff's Station, right?
Yes, absolutely. The Heart District has been very open to this, and they've realized the same thing that I realized, that we have to change the way that we were doing things. We, over the course of the past year and a half, have been doing that. We've seen a lot of success. We have about 800 kids in this program. I hope that we can double that by next year. And it's good for all of our high schools and junior high schools.
And really, I think one of the strengths of this program on its head is that you look at getting peers to get those younger kids, the 8th, 7th, and 8th graders. You look up to the high school kids when you're that age, and they're going out and they're talking to those kids, right, and bringing them into the program as they're coming into high school.
Right. We looked at this, and for years the Sheriff's Department put uniformed deputies in the classroom talking about drugs. And the reality is, you have a 16 or 17-year-old kid, and they look at a deputy, and they're going to say probably the same thing I said when I was 16 or 17. Whatever. They don't listen that well. They need to have their peers, people that they're going to listen to, tell them that it's okay to lead a drug-free life. And what is good is that the 7th graders that are in the Defy It, the Drug-Free Youth in Town program, will drop down into 6th grade in around May, and start recruiting those kids into this drug-free club. And what that does is it lessens the apprehension from going from 6th to 7th grade. The same thing occurs from high school to junior high, where the high school kids come down and talk to the junior high kids and bring them into the high school club, and it just drops that pressure of going from elementary school to junior high to high school.
And is there some sort of peer counseling or training that the teenagers who are talking to these kids undergo? How does that work?
Yeah, as part of the club, my JTeam deputies come in, give a lot of lectures on narcotics, what it does. There's a lot of people that come in talk about what drugs do to the body. There is drug testing as part of this process. It's a very involved program, and I encourage any parent that's out there that has a school age kid to take a look at the Defiant program. You can contact the city. You can contact the sheriff's station, the juvenile intervention team. Simply go on the city website. It's on there, or any one of the schools. We have representatives at all of the schools that run the programs.
And when it gets to that point where there's where you're bringing in the Bob Walksmith and he's talking to the kids, that's the intervention stage?
No, the intervention stage is when we get some kid. Really, what I use Bob for is if I have a juvenile that is addicted to a substance, he will find placement for them. He will try to work through the problems. The whole idea is that we've got to get that fixed as quickly and as early as possible before it turns into a full-blown addiction or potentially death at 21, 22 years old.
And what does the JTeam consist of? Is that deputies? Are those plainclothes? Or in addition to Bob Walksmith, who else is on the?
My enforcement deputies work a little bit of everything. Plainclothes, they'll do some undercover work. Sometimes they'll get in uniform and go out in a black and white. It just depends on the type of enforcement they need to do to find the drug dealer that they're looking for.
And Detective Bill Velick was on here a little while back and just kind of talking about it. It's also about getting out there and just making a presence known at the schools, right?
Sure, yeah, and we have school resource deputies at all of our high schools, and they also are at a lot of the feeder junior high schools. But the JTeam does an awful lot of presentations and that type of thing as well.
Well, thank you, Captain Becker. I really appreciate your time. We'll be back after the break to talk a little bit about Concerts of the Park with our newest school board member, Chris Fall. This is the City of Santa Clarita Spotlight Show on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS.